It's been a very cold start to the month of December. In fact, the first week of December, the coldest temperature anomalies has really been highlighted across the center part of the country. All this area in purple here, you're looking at over 8 degrees on average for the first week, below average conditions. And where they've predominantly seen a ton of snow already so far this season is across areas into Illinois, back into areas of Indiana. They actually have seen the coldest anomalies so far, and they're going to continue because these waves and waves of cross-polar flow is going to continue to funnel into the lower 48 and go over this healthy snowpack. I mean, look what's already fallen so far this winter. I mean, a pretty good amount. I mean, these systems have been kind of one after another with these cross-polar flow setups. In fact, areas like in Chicago are already up to 18 inches of snow so far this season. And those cold fronts have to go over this snowpack as well, and that's actually been lowering the temperatures a little bit more than what the actual models have been showing. So it's been actually colder than some of the models as of late. And it's all because we've got extremely cold air up there into Alaska. These are current temperatures this morning. And yeah, this is not a misprint, folks. We're looking at minus 20s, minus 30 below 0 degrees. You get into the Northwest Territories, yeah, 40, even 50 below 0. In fact, it only gets colder as we get through the week, and going into Friday, you can definitely see it even gets more intense as we head into Friday at the end of the work week. We're looking at 40, 50, even 55 degrees below 0. That is bone chilling, frost biting cold. That's the air temperature, not the actual wind chill. And a piece of that is actually going to head into the lower 48. So the overall setup for this afternoon, we've got a ridge of high pressure that's been pretty much predominantly out west. Those are keeping those warmer anomalies across our western regions. Further to the north, we've got the cold pool of air that's going over areas up into Alaska. That's setting up that northwest or cross-polar flow that continues to come out of the Arctic and head into the lower 48 and gets pulses of systems, and these little clipper systems head into the Great Lakes and to the Ohio Valley. So we're going to be seeing a series of these throughout the week and then heading into the weekend. And at the same time, we've got a conveyor belt of moisture which is going to be pummeling the Pacific Northwest. I mean, it's just one after another all week long. So it's a steady stream of Pacific moisture just going into the Northwest Territories, British Columbia, heading into Washington and Oregon. You could be picking up some serious totals by the end of the week. That's for sure. And they've already got flood watches out in place across Washington and Oregon, especially along the coastal areas. But once you get inland, man, you could be looking at 8 inches, even a foot totals is not out of the question once we get into Friday and Saturday, because there's just going to be systems one after another. And we're also going to be seeing some high winds are going to be associated with that system as well across Montana, back through the Dakotas, getting into Wyoming. And here's these clipper systems. So you've got the one that's going to be starting off in the next couple of days across West Virginia, portions of Kentucky, getting into North Carolina. It's snowing big time in some of those mountain regions in North Carolina this morning and in Virginia. So you've got winter weather advisories and winter storm warnings in place. And then we'll have another system that's going to be coming in across the Great Lakes and add to the snowfall totals in Minnesota as well as into Wisconsin. So the overall setup for this afternoon, there is the snow that's already starting to fly this morning. It will continue to fly, especially into West Virginia, into Virginia there, adding up to some decent totals. Even some 5 to 8 inch totals is definitely not out of the question. So you can see where the cross-polar flow is, and most of the cold dome of air with an Arctic high pressure of 1030 and even a Arctic high pressure of 1029 down there into Texas, where they've cleared out last night and saw an official freeze in Dallas this morning. So we'll start to see these little clipper systems that come across. So as we go into Wednesday, there's why we have the winter storm watches and winter storm warnings and already in place across Minnesota, back into Wisconsin again. They'll add up to more totals back into Michigan as these systems will just be conveyor belt of moisture be coming in off that steady cross polar flow. And the overall setup as we head into Wednesday and go into Thursday, we'll start to see that ridge of high pressure starting to build across the west. Will try to extend into the Rockies. That will highlight those areas into Kansas, Oklahoma, and Texas. So you're going to start to see your temperatures rise in a big way, considering what you've been as of late. There is that true cold Arctic air building up into Alaska, into the Northwest Territories, getting into Western Canada. And out ahead of that, we've got also a cold air mass that's producing all the snow, even going into that Thursday time frame. So the overall setup as far as high temperatures going into Thursday, yeah, it's got full-blown winter to the north with that snowpack. Obviously, the snowpack adds to that colder temperatures because it has to go over that, kind of insulates the ground there. Yeah, these are high temperatures. Won't even get out of the single digits up into Montana and to Minnesota. We've got teens and 20s across Iowa and Illinois. Further south, back into the 30s, and then of course where they get closer to that ridge of high pressure in Oklahoma, especially into Texas, we've got widespread 60s, 70s, even some 80s down there into South Texas is likely not out of the question. So as we head into Friday, we're going to be watching that Arctic air that's building up there into the Northwest Territories start to funnel into the lower 48. So you'll see these pieces of energy start to come in across, move into the central part of the U.S. with that kind of cross polar flow and elongating with the warmer temperatures out west and the Arctic air to the north. As we head into that, Friday, December the 12th timeframe. So if we add it up for your overall work week, it's pretty dry across the South. I mean, there's not much happening. It's, you've got pretty much stagnant weather across a good part of a lot of states here. So the only really setup here for your work week is going to be these relentless areas of precipitation that will be coming off a powerful Pacific Northwest storm, and just to conveyor belt of moisture one after another. And yeah, we could be looking at some foot totals is definitely not out of the question. We got plenty of precipitation to work with, and most of this that's coming in across the Great Lakes and through areas of New England will be in the form of snow. So if we look at the overall blend of models, if you add up the work week totals ahead, yes, you're looking at least another couple of inches, even some higher totals, 4 to 8 inches, even some double-digit totals, probably not out of the question because you'll get hit with several systems the further north you go. But yes, we'll be definitely adding to those seasonal snowfall totals across this region. And we'll just be seeing these systems come in like every 2 days, and another one will train beyond that. So we start, as we head into the weekend, we're going to be starting to get a little bit more uncertainty, right? So we've got true Arctic air that's obviously building up there in Alaska into the Northwest Territories. And here's the overall GFS ensemble guidance as we head into that Friday afternoon, as you start to definitely see some of that polar air, Arctic air filter into the lower 48. Now, of course, it has to go over this healthy snowfall pack, right? So the uncertainty is obviously how strong this ridge is out west, how much it's going to be able to weaken, how much of this pieces of energy is going to pull further south, and how much is it going to extend eastbound as we head into the weekend. So if we go look at the overall latest GFS ensemble guidances, is essentially has the coldest temperatures, the cross polar flow air, the 20, 30, if not almost 40 degrees below average at times, highlighted across Minnesota where the snow is, right? Where that snowpack is across Wisconsin into Iowa, Illinois, Indiana, Kentucky, those areas into West Virginia. They seem to take the brunt of the true Arctic, coldest air. And then further south, you kind of give a glancing blow, if you will, back into Kansas, Oklahoma, back into Texas. You'll still get the colder air. It's more of a glancing blow of that Arctic air. And for the course further south into the southeast, this will be heading into your weekend ahead. So guys, I appreciate you watching. Do like this video, definitely hit the subscribe button, and catch me next update. Wire protect you before and after the storm.